Once this gets in your blood, you're called to this kind of work. Some people are called to other things in life. For someone to spend this many years you're in this profession, you're called to it.
On this episode of Let's Talk Cincy, a veteran police officer who came up through the ranks to lead his department as chief through the best of times and the worst of times.
I've been blessed for the last 6.5 years to be the designated leader of the organization, but so many people play into all of the things that we do, and I'm so proud of the work that the men and women here have done.
From WLWT, this is Let's Talk Cincy, presented by Western and Southern Financial Group. Put our financial strength behind you.
If you check the code of ethics for the Cincinnati Police Department, you will read, in part, that law enforcement is an honorable calling and commands a professional philosophy, personal honor, and devotion to service above self. Hello, everyone. I'm Curtis Fuller, and welcome to Let's Talk Cincy. Elliot Isaac served as the city's chief of police from 2015 until his retirement recently. 33 years wearing the shield, and he'll tell you with pride, honoring the police code. Today, a one-on-one with the newly retired chief about his time on the force and what's next.
Attention all callers, all departments. Stand by for the final call for Chief Elliot K. Isaac. Chief of Police Elliot K. Isaac was appointed to the Cincinnati Police Department on October 2nd, 1988. He was promoted to police sergeant in 1997, then promoted to police lieutenant in 2002. He was later promoted to police captain in 2004. He was then promoted to assistant chief in 2015. On December 10th, 2015, Elliot K. Isaac was promoted to the 15th police chief of the Cincinnati Police Department.
Elliot Isaac has worked his way through the ranks of the Cincinnati Police Department over the past 3 decades, from the street beat to investigator to the position of chief in 2015. He's left his mark on this department, even though he does not like to talk about himself.
That's difficult for me, Curtis, because I like to talk about we. Because most of the things that I've seen accomplished are team efforts.
He has been the unit commander of the Criminal Investigations Section, the Special Investigations Section, and the Internal Investigations Section.
It wasn't my original aspiration to be chief. You begin your career as a new officer. Being chief is a distant thing.
His colleagues say his legacy is his integrity.
Yeah, integrity and great character, You're right, Curtis, people do. They'll test you, they'll throw stones at you, and the word that kept coming up yesterday in his reception is steady. A steady leader, somebody who was solid, who was compassionate but also patient. We're going to miss him greatly. He was a huge influence on me personally, as a mentor to me, and somebody I worked very closely with as a public information officer. And I saw the trials and tribulations that chiefs go through. And to do what he did for as long as he did, is 6+ years as police chief in a major city police department, is a huge accomplishment. And he doesn't do that alone. He admittedly says that. Everything he did, he does with the support of everybody in the Cincinnati Police Department, sworn and civilian, the support he received from City Hall and our elected officials, the area law enforcement community. So 33+ years with our department, as I said, is a major accomplishment. He's still got more to offer. He's still kind of a young guy. So I would expect to see him somewhere in the greater Cincinnati area helping and doing something profound to impact this community the way he already has in his career here.
As the first African-American chief to come up through the ranks, Isaac says equity and transparency were important.
I saw a lot of unfairness coming up through the ranks, that it was just at times just blatant unfairness.
Chief Isaac and I were partners in the West End, and he's always been a man of integrity. He's always tried to do it the right way. He was a guy you could trust. He was a confidant, a partner. We had some amazing times together, We still laugh about some of the things that happened but Chief Isaac did it the right way. Nobody walks on water, but he did it the right way. He served the citizens, he served the men and women of the Cincinnati Police Department with integrity and honesty.
And now he leaves on his terms, without controversy.
And one of the reputations that I had was that I was going to be fair. I really wanted to make sure that that was what I would be known for.
He always wanted to be a police officer. That was something that he dreamed of.
Policing is a family affair. His brother retired from the department last year, and his daughter is now following in the chief's footsteps.
In this profession, you're called to it, and you know, somehow it got in her blood, and you know, she's enjoying it. She's doing great, having a great career.
He admits gun violence is still out of control and will be a challenge for the next chief and this department. But looking back, Isaac says he has no regrets.
I look back at some of my fondest memories, though, is very early in my career, you know, being a young officer out on patrol. You know, that is answering calls for service. That is really the heart and the root of what we do.
Up next, what motivated Elliot Isaac to become a Cincinnati cop? How it all began, when Let's Talk Cincy continues.
Everyone I've talked to says former Chief Elliot Isaac has positioned the Cincinnati Police Department to continue leading the way in policing. The chief is well respected throughout Cincinnati after an impressive career in law enforcement. During our recent conversation, we discussed everything from the historic collaborative agreement to issues and challenges of policing throughout the country. But our conversation began with why he decided to become a cop 33 years ago.
I've told this story many times. I was one of those kids who always had an interest in wanting to be a police officer. Watching the cop shows in the 70s, Adam 12 and SWAT and all of those things, you know, I always had an interest, and it kind of stuck with me growing up, getting into different things, athletics and other different, and you think about other potential careers, but being a police officer was something that always stuck with me.
It's been good to you.
It has, you know, it's been my professional work life. I've spent since I was 22 years old, 33 years that I've been in this profession.
You and I started here in Cincinnati. I came to Cincinnati, we were saying, in '88. You started in '88. So much has changed in 33 years. Talk about policing over those 33 years, the changes you've seen locally, nationally.
You know, and that's kind of the thing that I've been talking about, is just the double-edged sword of that. Seeing how policing was, and also having and now I'll look back at it and say, having that full experience of seeing the evolution of policing. The way policing was done in the late 80s and early 90s is vastly different than the way we do things. And at that time, thinking, you know, law enforcement as a whole thought they were doing the right thing, and not realize some of the devastating impacts it was having, you know, in the way that it was policing. The vast majority are great people, great men and women choose this career because they really do want to work in a profession of service. They want to give back in some way. They're here to try to help and to try to make a difference. That is truly what I've seen throughout my career, is really what's in the heart of it. But if they're not, you know, led in the right direction, if they're not trained and taught in the right direction, you know, you can have a negative impact. I think that's why we find ourselves, you know, here in 2022 still trying to peel some of that onion back to make sure that we're effective, that we're providing fair and equitable policing in all of our neighborhoods.
When you spoke out about guns on the street, I don't know if I've ever seen you as passionate as that moment.
When we're talking about juvenile, that starts at home. Parents need to be responsible for their kids. If you have 14 and 15-year-old kids that are out here committing violent crime, that begins at home. There's no way to sugarcoat that. The types of weapons that these young people are able to get their hands on, never in the past have I seen 15-year-olds able to access AR-15 style weapons and things of that nature that we're seeing.
When I began my career, to take a gun off of someone, let alone to take a gun off a juvenile, I mean, that was a major, major thing. Something that wasn't an everyday occurrence. Now, it's far too common. I mean, last year alone, we took over 1,500 firearms, illegally possessed firearms, from off our streets, and we still see the devastating impact. Far too many precious lives have been lost, too many young people, and what we saw last year, seeing more young people involved in using firearms, that something that I've never seen in my career. And to see this trend happening nationally, it's alarming, and it takes everyone to be involved. And we can't point fingers at each other. Everyone has to own this and have a part of it.
Next, Chief Isaac talks about one of the projects he's proud that began under his watch, when Let's Talk Cincy continues.
Elliot Isaac says he walks away from the Cincinnati Police Department knowing much has changed, but he also admits there have been some difficult days too for them to arrive at this point. And the department must continue to push for fair and equitable policing.
When I look back at just the innovation and the creativity that's in our ranks, it's something to be proud of. I mean, and the commitment of our officers, our commitment to community, our commitment to making sure we continue in that vein. And, you look back at it, sometimes we've stumbled, but I think that's one of the things that I'm proud of, is that we are still committed to that. We're committed to transparency. I'm proud that, we're on our second generation of body cams and being transparent about the work that we do each and every day. I'm so proud of the work that our youth services folks do and our officers do in work with kids and the programs that we are able to hold. So there's so much great work taking place that I'm just proud. And when you have such talented people, even through tough times, they make it easy to be the leader, when you have such great people working for you. In 1988, an African-American man or woman to think about being chief, that was something unheard of. We had never had an assistant chief. At that point, it was, we had to go to court to sue just to have people of color promoted to captain. So, that was something that, seemed very, very far off. But as my career progressed and I got promoted, I found myself, moving up the ranks, relatively quickly. By the time I made captain, I was still in my 30s. I had a lot of career left, and, I thought maybe, aspiring to assistant chief would be great. And that was kind of my aspiration. I spent a lot of time as a captain. I was appointed the executive assistant chief in 2015. And I only spent a very short time before, through circumstances changing, that I found myself being the interim chief. And it wasn't my aspiration at the time, but the department was in a situation where someone needed to step up into that role, and here we are now 6.5 years later.
What's your thought about the collaborative agreement and the need to continue it and move it forward?
I think we absolutely do. It's something that, so many members of our community take pride in, but so many of us internally take pride into it as well. There were a lot of officers who helped in that work. I'm very proud of, the work that I had the opportunity to be a part of while we were under that oversight and while we were trying to come into compliance with those mandates. And I think that much of the work we see around the nation is found in that work. And I think it's critical that we continue to move forward with it. That's why here, I've established a collaborative policing section to make sure that we stay focused. Something that I hope that I put in place that will continue us, that even after I'm gone, we won't have some of those stumbling blocks that we had in the past where some of this work has fallen by the wayside. I hope that this has institutionalized some of that work, that we'll stay committed to problem solving, we'll stay committed to our partnerships with the community, and that we'll, as we make decisions, we'll continue to look to the community, as a valued voice in the decisions that are made. And I think it's a positive step.
Cincinnati's new Crime Gun Intelligence Center is the first of its kind here in Ohio, and it is a new approach to fighting gun violence. The center opened just a few months ago, but cameras have not been allowed inside until now. Jatera McGee was the first television journalist to tour that facility. Elliot Isaac says he is so proud that he was able to start the center before he retired from the department. And he tells us he believes this is something that will eventually prevent shootings by targeting Cincinnati's most violent and frequent offenders.
We want to lead the way.
After 33 years with the Cincinnati Police Department, 6 as chief, Elliot Isaac has responded, investigated, and grappled with thousands of shootings, hundreds of them deadly.
We've seen so many precious lives lost. To the last 2 years to have 94 homicides respectively, that's far too much for our city.
Isaac proudly showed off the first Crime Gun Intelligence Center in Ohio.
I think that's one of the critical pieces about this, is to have everyone under one roof.
Everyone is 24 uniformed and plainclothes officers, members of the ATF, analysts, and prosecutors, all together in an undisclosed location. CJIC focuses on crime guns. Recovered ones are test fired on site. Shell casings help investigators link shootings and shooters.
Because we believe, and the evidence is showing, that a small number of people are responsible for a large number of our shootings and homicides.
CPD took more than 1,500 guns off the street last year, a record number. Still, almost 100 people were shot and killed.
This is evidence-based policing at its finest. And then to be able to have a federal prosecutor and a state prosecutor from the Hamilton County Prosecutor's Office also housed with us to watch the case develop, to give advice, to make sure that we have successful prosecution as these cases develop.
The chief and several officers visited the Indianapolis Metro Police Department, CJIC, to learn and tweak Cincinnati's model. The captain in charge told WLWT he knows his unit has prevented shootings.
If you really want to protect people, you go after the violent ones.
Governor Mike DeWine praised CJIC in a one-on-one interview last summer. Isaac believes the strategy is CPD's best shot.
This is one of those things that I want to look back and say, I am really glad that I pushed and that I've left something for my successors that they can take to the next level.
Other law enforcement agencies here in Ohio and other places are watching Cincinnati closely. And if we see the results that Elliot Isaac expects, well, you can bet the Cincinnati Police Department model will be replicated.
More of our conversation with retired Chief Elliot Isaac when Let's Talk Cincy returns.
We want to hear from you. You can email us your ideas at ltc@WLWT.com. Remember, you can always watch full episodes or get more information on WLWT.com/Let's Talk Cincy. You can also listen to Let's Talk on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And finally today, of course, I had to ask former Chief Isaac what's next for him. Well, he smiled and said he plans to get some rest and handle some chores around the house. Nothing else specific yet. But I imagine you can expect him to be serving the public in some capacity sooner rather than later. Well, before he officially called it quits, I decided to take a ride with him in one of the first neighborhoods he patrolled.
Tell you, my time has changed, you know. I started in District 1 down here when this was Laurel Homes and Lincoln Court. And I spent a lot of time walking, you know, those neighborhoods and those communities, and it's quite a bit different now. Just as much time as I spent in the West End, I had the opportunity to work down here in a lot of different capacities as a community officer. I actually worked in our violent crime squad down here. Then I was an investigator, detective down here before I made sergeant. And just looking at how the neighborhood has changed, it looks quite a bit different when I look back over 30 years. The way that our system works, you're first eligible to retire at 25 years, and then there's another deferred retirement option to where you can go another maximum of 8 years. Well, I've reached that 8-year max, so it really didn't give me much of an option. So it's time. And then after 33 years, it's probably time to give someone else a chance. People want opportunities. They want opportunities for advancement. And, I think it's healthy for a department to have, people move into different roles and put fresh eyes on some of the challenges that we have.
We wish him well. That does it for the program. Have a nice day.